Hello everybody, welcome back to Gelvin Valley. We find ourselves out in the hayfield, or straw field rather, harvested field. This is one of our new fields, picking up a few bales, and we're getting very close to having enough to right size our bank account, at least for a little while. Always seem to like it. Goes out the door so easily and comes in quite hard. Difficult to bring it in, easy to let it go out, kind of like in real life. So thanks for being a part of this one more time. I've kind of been in the process of visiting about some of the changes I'd like to make to this other map, and I hadn't finished reading off my list last time, so I thought I'd return to some of those this time here. And also ask again if you have any ideas of something you've always wanted to see in a map but never have. Something in particular, and who knows whether it's feasible or not, and their ideas are always plenteous, but means and methods for doing it aren't always readily apparent, readily available, however you want to put it. So some of it is how can you trick the game engine to get it to do what you want it to do, and oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to come back here for one silly bale. Look at that. Oh well. We didn't have anywhere else we needed to be, right? So there's gonna be one more load I can take down there. Get a little bit more bread. There we go. We're gonna pull up. I think we have one more to come back and get. I've been pleased with the number of bales that we have, and it's going a whole lot quicker to pick them up and take them to market than it did to make them. Just off go through the town of Dunfarming. Kind of this play on words. Because we sure aren't done farming. We've got a lot of farming to do yet. Let's zip around this building and head over to the straw sell point, which is at the same place as the livestock auction yard. I think I mentioned in a previous video there's one other place to sell bales. It's over at the horse stable, clear on the other side of the valley. There we go. Look at that. $73 in the hole. We are coming back. That means that single bale out there will be enough to, yeah, they're like 156 bucks a piece. So a single, one more bale will put us north of zero. I like a lot. Finally get rid of this black eye that I've had this whole time when you all been good enough to sit in here and listen to me drone on and on. Finally we'll be in the black a little bit. And still have some crop in the bin, that we can sell. One more bale up the hill to get. Where was it? There it is. According to our PDA map, I think that's the only one we gotta pick up. So in the last video, I was starting to explain some of the changes or updates I wanted to build into this other map. One of which was to simulate storm damage, by cutting certain trees, taking limbs off, by bending them over so that the player would have to deal with them, to simulate the roots kind of almost coming out of the ground like they do in real life. The trees will kind of tip over, but stubbornly stay in the ground for part of it. And I know in here, somewhere I guess I would get that idea would be from a map like this, where Wes, when he made it, he just built some of that in there. There's been a number of times I know we've seen trees bent over that you know, if we really want to navigate around in certain areas, we'd have to go in with a chainsaw and cut the trees down. So I make that bend. Hopefully I took off collisions. Phew. I think there was just a handful of bales in this field. Ah, that auto speed. Definitely need a quick belly game about it and just fix it. Or turn it off manually so it quits popping the error. I know that's just 6 bales, but I think what I'm gonna do is go back to town over here and sell it before I head down so I can go down with an empty trailer. And maybe that's a little bit of efficiency, I don't know. Let's sneak in this way. Now I wonder, can we hear the auction if I get down here? Yeah, there you can hear it a little bit. I don't know how those guys talk so rapidly. That's all it sounds like to me. Just a bunch of blah, blah, blah. Yeah, probably all of us have encountered an auctioneer at some point in life and listened to them, and it's, you know, I spend half of my time just sitting there. It kind of tickles my funny bone listening to them do it. I don't know why it seems funny. You know, and those are the days when it's like, oh my goodness, I got this itch on my nose. You know, I don't dare scratch it, or if I raise my hand, I'm gonna first thing buy this massive field or something that I don't want to buy. But I gotta say, it just kind of tickles my funny bone listening to them a little bit, and yet even in saying that, I know there's a science behind it as to how those guys do it. You know, how they get those words out, how they speak so rapidly. A lot of it flat out isn't words. It's just noise, and it's to keep the buyers kind of in a state of agitation, if you will, and in the mood to make a decision to buy. So a really skillful auctioneer knows when to push further for more, knows when he's got all that he can get, and when he's to ring out with a sold. So it's entertaining a lot of times to listen to those guys do their craft. And a lot of them flat out are entertaining. I remember spending some time talking to a auctioneer, and he talked about going to school, how they taught him all these things, how to do it, and you know, some of his shtick, you know, in selling. I just remember watching it. Then later, it was a not-for-profit auction that he was handling, and so he was donating his time, and just the teasing and the banter that he would have, you know, with the people there buying. And you know, I remember a couple times he would all of a sudden stop his big spiel because he had like two people kind of on the hook bidding against each other, and like sometimes it'd be a man and a woman, and sometimes he turned to the man and he says, "I hate to tell you this, sir, but you're being outbid by a girl." You know, just those kinds of things, you know, to make everybody laugh, and just some good humor to kind of help people continue to be in the mood and to do whatever he could, in this case for a not-for-profit, to try to squeeze more money out in terms of a sale for the sake of the not-for-profit. So a good auctioneer, you know, can be worth its weight in gold. I say his, it could be a lady too, don't mean to leave them out. I have seen lady auctioneers before, although Uh, the men typically have an advantage with their voice, whether it's being a little deeper, a little more able to project. My goodness, look at that jitter. I hope we don't crash anything. That's all I'm gonna say. Excuse me there. Sometimes a man needs to blow his nose. I figured you didn't all need to hear that. So I'll throw that out there too. And if you've had any special experiences at an auction or listening to an auctioneer, or you know an auctioneer, or you are an auctioneer, would love to hear from you in the comments if you have anything to say. But yeah, reading the notes in the map, or maybe it was something else I was reading. I'm pretty sure that the auctioneer that you hear on this map was a real life auctioneer for the map author's father, I think, when he sold his farm in Northern Ireland, I believe. So apparently someone recorded some of it, and Wes decided to build it directly into the map. It's kind of a cool little feature to add. Just kind of looking at the time here, 2 hours and 11 minutes. We're making an awesome time of getting this done. In retrospect, I would have only needed to rent it for 3 hours, so I wasted a little bit of money, but that's all right. I look at what I have in the bank now, and I'm pleased. We are out of the negative territory, which is very helpful. So hopefully that means the bank mod or whatever that I'm using in here, they'll quit charging me interest on the negative cash balance. That's the Bank of Haggerston. I know here the other night I went over a lot of the mods that I have installed, most of which I'm not even using yet, or maybe never even will on this particular map. It all depends on. But some of them are for things that, don't even have a purpose in this map. But some of them, kind of like I mentioned at the time, you can't even see. One of those you can't really see because it doesn't show up as an item to purchase in the shop menu is, like the Bank of Haggerston. It's just a mod that lets you rent property, buy, sell property, and have some different options on borrowing money. This is another one of our new fields. We're grabbing all the bales we can get. Looks like I need 3 more to make the load, and then we are heading back to the sell point. Looks like we may have another trailer out of this field close to it, which will be nice. Maybe not quite. So we are almost to the end of it here. Let's look kind of back down through here. So what else do I need to change in this other map? If cutting equipment hits a rock, cause damage. Maybe disable the machine until repairs are made. And then I have a note about fixing rock handling equipment, because I think I'm using the damage mod in this other map also. So fix rock handling equipment like a roller or the dozer blade or truck bed or anything that comes into contact with rocks. Make it less susceptible to the damage. Well, I know that's possible, but the amount of coding I would have to do or XML work, may be time prohibitive. So I may let that go. I mean, it's You will damage your equipment if you run into a rock. I know that already. I think the idea here was to make it extra bad. If you were, say, combining and you hit a rock, to where it would basically disable your header entirely until you had it fixed. And in real life, that is what can happen. If you take out a sickle section out of your cutter head for the combine, well, depending on how badly you take it out, you've now rendered it somewhat inoperable, or at least not as efficient as it was previously, because it's going to be skipping some spot in the field. I just have rocks on the brain. I just think about rocks all the time, and there are so many things I've built into this other map that are just rock related. And so that's probably where that particular comment came from. I have another note here. Have the dozer blade gather dirt in its blade while pushing along the ground that can be dumped into ditches and in certain places. And then it says, in the ditches have fill planes that come up as it's filled. A fill plane is like, what you see in a truck when you load it up with grain. It's the appearance, the fill plane that rises up in the back of the truck. And you can have a fill plane anywhere. Earlier I think I mentioned this map will have cement in it. And so there's a place where the player can drive a cement truck and take the concrete. And there is a fill plane, if you will, that comes up as you fill this, a foundation with concrete. As you do that, the fill plane comes up. And then when you're done filling it, of course, it stops. So with dirt, another thing that I did with all this concrete is I have a factory in there where you can make cement tile. You can take cement over there and it'll make tile. And then you can haul the tile to the field. And there's this area I created that has kind of a ditch where there's a couple of excavators sitting there, and they look like they're digging the ditch and they're putting the tile in here. So the player can deliver the tile there. You will see the tile literally laid in the trench, and then over time it'll disappear somehow, and as it disappears, the player gets money. A little bit of traffic here. So one area further I had thought of doing was, once the tile's in there, well then cover it over with dirt. So take the dozer up there, and then you could use a fill plane that as you push dirt into the trench, I could script or figure out a way to get dirt to appear and slowly rise up in the trench until it covers all these pipes and that kind of thing. But I don't know just how much realism you try to put in, and does anybody care about that as an idea? But I don't know. It's, like I say, this map is never going to see the light of day, so I'm just asking myself, how much energy do I have to try to build something like that into the map when I'm the only one who's likely ever gonna play it? And even in terms of seeing it, it all depends on how many people might be interested in looking at it at YouTube. And when it's already an old game, probably not that many. I think in FarmSim 22 now, there's a lot more potential for dirt digging and that kind of thing, as now there's the ability to adjust the height of the map and whatnot. In FarmSim 15, we flat out don't have any ability to do that. One of the mods that you may have seen in my mods folder is an excavator, but you have no ability. If you hopped in it, you can't dig a hole with it. The only thing you could do is if you happen to have a fill type in a trigger somewhere that has something you can put in that little bucket, you can scoop it and dump it and whatever, but very limited. Whereas in 22 now, I think you're able to literally dig holes if you have the mod set up, right for it, which is pretty cool. Adds for a whole lot more things you can do in game that are pretty clever. Here a bale, there a bale, everywhere a bale. Yes, auto load stopped. My goodness, I gotta keep turning it back on again. Oh well. And look at that. This silly bale is still kind of sitting at an angle, or it was. Yeah, that's just par for the course with the script that I put on all these bales to kind of keep them nailed down in the field wherever they were produced by the baler. I think I like it better this way. That one should have rolled down the hill, but it didn't, so I think I like keeping them staying put, even if it means they are a little wonky in terms of how they behave. Good grief. One more to get the bottom layer here. There we go. Yes, I'm not quite going to be able to get the next layer on there. Oh, bottom load came off again. I guess I just need to creep through the field at a very slow speed. One more bale, right? I think we got just this one. And now this field is done. We'll head to one up down the hill here, 37 and 8. Those are the two we got left. 37 and 8. Time flies. There's another huge jitter. What in the world is doing that? I can only imagine. I think it's probably the rent mod. Probably going to need to look into it when I get a free moment. When's that going to happen, right? I'm just looking at my notes here. I can get through the rest of these, hopefully. Let's see here. Tip over some trees at the field edge, so farmer has to trim it down or work around it. Well, that's an idea basically straight off of this map and some others that, has it that with trees. And some of them, the way they will do it is they will just plant a tree so close to the edge that, oh, that's a little bit rough. I didn't mean to run over that. But they'll plant a tree so close to the edge that you basically can't do your field work with the full area of the tree. You kind of have to farm around it. The field we were just in, 38 up the hill, kind of had an area along the edge that was kind of like this. And, so once we can afford a chainsaw, maybe we can go back in there and trim that sucker out. And more than just a chainsaw, we got to be able to do something with the tree once we fell it. So we'll need to have a little bit of moolah in hand before we're able to deal with that one. But yeah, that's what this note is about, is just set up some obstacles. And I saw one map. This one here was in Farm Sim 17. I played with a guy. He was an excellent mapper and modeler. His name was Neurotech. And in his map that he had, the name of it is slipping me. It's something he never released publicly, I don't think. It was just for his own private enjoyment, him and his friends. I have a copy of it somewhere on my hard drive. But he had done that in an area where there was a road you had to go down that opened up a whole section, a new section of the map. And he bent over several trees right in this area. So if you wanted to access the other part of the map, well, first off, you had to cut some trees down that were in your way and preventing you from driving, to this other section of the map. So I always thought that was kind of clever. Force the player to do a little bit of hardship, kind of in the blade process. The other ideas here, well, maybe there's one more. add the, what's it called? It starts with a G. Guelle. Gel Mist mod. I think it's basically manure and slurry and caulk or lime. So to consider installing that to the map just from some additional textures available. I don't know how that works with the soil mod. Maybe it behaves nicely with it and just has some additional textures. I don't know, but I may not even need it if I have, because I already have the soil mod in it, and I want to try to maybe learn it on there. We'll see. Oops, looks like I missed the trigger on those. Nice, we are over $10,000. I don't know what I'm going to do with so much money in the bank. This is quite exciting. To an accountant watching his money go up, up, up. Never you fear, I'll probably figure out a place to blow it all quicker than we all wish it would happen. We have just a little more to do, so we're getting close. But the last two items kind of on my list are probably beyond me pretty far. This map, Atomic 67 did a series on Eustace Farmer. I think he did like 17 episodes, so he spent quite a bit of time on it. And one of the things he incorporated at the end that I thought was pretty cool, he found some firefighting mods, and I know these have limited use, in Farming Simulator. Maybe you can get them to squirt water out or whatever, but we all know there is no fire in the game. There's no fire to put out. You can place a fire. Occasionally you can see something like a campfire or like the smoke just in that house to the left of us there. So we see ambiance like that, but there typically isn't a fire. Well, he set up an episode where I think there was basically like a forest fire in Gelvin Valley. I forget kind of how his storyline was for all that. So he comes in with, there was some kind of a helicopter mod that had water firefighting equipment kind of on it. It was really kind of fun, and it got me to thinking, occasionally, and I remember we had this on the farm, we almost had a combine fire. It was kind of touch and go, and we were really fortunate. We had a fire start kind of in the engine compartment, or smolder, if you will, with some seed residue and some straw in there. I think it did start on fire a little bit, so, we had kind of a panic there for a bit, dealing with it. Combine fires, they're a fact of life. They happen. And sometimes when they happen, they burn down not only the entire combine, but a good deal of the field along with it. So one of the ideas I had on this paper, or thoughts that I had, was to somehow build fire into the map. Now I know I've seen some other apps out there do this. The last one that I saw, I think, was Farm Sim 17, where there literally was fires. You open the map in the editor and you can see where they placed the fire. But I didn't get far enough at it to see if they had a script, that would activate the fire, or just what interaction there might be, if the player had a fire truck or whatever, were they able to put out the fire? I just don't know what all they were able to do versus not. But it's probably easy enough that you could place a fire. Might be easy enough you could place a trigger kind of in the fire, that if you dump water in it, it puts out the fire. I don't know. I mean, it's something, I would just have to explore to see if it's even feasible And it may not be. I don't know. But I kind of have that in there, and I think a number of times I've expressed in here, I used to work on Lone Oak Farms, which was a grass seed farm, and I think I've mentioned we burned the straw residue back in the day. And you look at the field texture we're driving over from a modding standpoint. This is at the end of the crop life. There is no other texture. The next texture, if you will, is growing it brand new. You can do some other tricks and things to it that make it appear to be something else, but basically this is it. So I'm wondering how hard would it be to add another texture that, say, makes the ground look burned. And so I really don't know. Although it comes now to mind, as I think chopped straw, is that installed in here? Chopped straw is pretty clever in that it overlays, it doesn't change the underlying texture any for the crop, but it overlays it with another layer that shows the chopped straw parts. In other words, the straw that's chopped and put on there, whether it's for canola or barley or wheat or even corn, I think it has its own. But now I'm kind of wondering, and this would take some setup in the map itself, what if I used like the chopped straw mod and created another texture and just colored it black and had so much of it that if it was put on the field, it would color it all black in various areas. And maybe if somehow you could get that to coincide with where the fire was, you could color it black behind the fire. Oh, there's so many things that go through a modding mind, if you will, as you think about this stuff. And most of it is probably, as they would say, a pipe dream. I don't know how feasible it is. But what do you know? It's on my list. I'll maybe cogitate on it some more and probably determine that it's too difficult to figure out or isn't worth it to do in Farm Sim 15 of all places. So, but it sure would be cool to have, not just for the sake of a combine fire, but if you wanted to, I don't know, deliberately start something on fire, well, this would make a means of doing it. So, just gotta figure out a way to do it, I guess. So, I'm looking at the time once more, and I'm over a half hour as I sit here and drone on and on. Thank you so much for listening, humoring me, and coming along for the journeys. We finished picking up the straw in here on Gelvin Valley, so I'll let you go here and call the episode to an end. And thank you again for joining, and we'll see you again soon. Bye bye for now.